Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice, musician turned entrepreneur and co-founder of 6th Ave Homes and 6th Ave Storytelling. Over the past 10 years, I have launched multiple successful businesses and have become obsessed with all things entrepreneurship and marketing. I've been on a personal quest to unpack what it takes to make and grow a great brand. One thing that I've discovered is that stories are powerful and that storytelling has the power to set a brand apart. Join me as I dive into the stories of the heavy-hitting leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and business owners in our community to hear their biggest wins, greatest losses, and their best business secrets. There's a story behind every great brand. Welcome to Stories with Soul. Stories with Soul is brought to you by my company, 6th Ave Storytelling. In 2020, we launched a marketing company on a mission to encourage entrepreneurship and make starting and growing a small business easier than ever before. Since then, we have helped hundreds of small businesses and entrepreneurs grow their brands by giving them the tools, resources, strategy, and support they need to craft and share their stories. If you are thinking about launching and growing your own brand, schedule a meetup with me today. I would love to talk to you. Head over to 6thAveStorytelling.com and let me show you how the storytelling approach can transform your marketing strategy. This episode of Stories with Soul is brought to you by TCU Neely Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. They're ranked as one of the top entrepreneurship programs in the country, and they live by the Neely promise to unleash human potential with leadership at the core and innovation in our spirit. The Institute has recently launched the Horned Frog Investment Network, which leverages the expertise and experience of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and investment professionals. They source, evaluate, and invest in the next generation of innovators. Crazy cool. And as an entrepreneur myself, I know the importance of finding great help. It can truly make or break your business. Luckily, as Fort Worth entrepreneurs, we have access to some of the top up-and-coming minds in the nation. If you're a business looking for talented students and interns, visit the Neely School of Business website to learn more about the Entrepreneurial Intern Scholars Program. They're actively looking for placements for their incredible students. They're doing amazing things, and it's exciting to see the next generation of entrepreneurs grow and flourish right here in our city. Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice, and today, for today's episode, I'm joined by a very special guest co-host, the lovely Melissa Ice.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Who happens to be my wife.
Yeah, we know each other pretty well.
Yeah, she is a... Jimmy is stepping out for a little bit, and so I was like, Melissa, would you like to join me on this? And you were also really excited about our guest today.
I was. Selfishly, I wanted to be here.
So I am excited to have my friend Patrick Coddou join us, who is a Fort Worth entrepreneur. He is the founder and CEO of Supply, a direct-to-consumer brand that offers premium shaving, skincare, and grooming products for men. Basically, y'all have like the coolest craft razor ever. You like design this beautiful. We're talk more about that. But he bootstrapped the idea of Supply in his spare bedroom to a nationally recognized brand that has served hundreds of thousands of customers around the globe. Patrick and his wife Jennifer appeared on ABC's Shark Tank and walked away with a deal that accelerated Supply's success. They have received accolades from GQ, Men's Health, The Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, and more. I was doing some Googling last night, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of articles and BuzzFeed and all these magazines talking about what you guys are doing. But prior to starting Supply, this is fascinating, Patrick was an engineer in the F-35 International Strategy and Business Development at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics. BuzzFeed said that is a shaving razor christened the Cadillac of razors. And we have some big news, which is, it may not be news. Like, you're announcing this, and I think I want to start here. We're going to kind of start with like eating dessert first. Is sort of the
little reverse engineering.
Yeah, reverse engineering. Like, we're going to talk about like the cake before we have dinner. But you just sold the company.
That's correct. I did.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, big deal.
That's like every entrepreneur's dream is to start something, make a living doing it, have it be successful, have hundreds of thousands of people that love it, and then sell it. And so we're how many weeks now into that?
We closed on August 1st. Today is early September. So we're like 5 weeks into that.
So this is this is a brand new deal.
Well, this is a new chapter for me.
I mean, that's like what's crazy about it is I saw you came to like the 6th Avenue Homes house show. We did a little house concert the other day, and we were talking about business, and you were giving me advice about hiring people. Little did I know you were like, see, you either had already sold it or were like, I'm closing that week or like.
I was probably about to. Nobody knew, just Jennifer and I, and maybe one or two like really close business friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you never know what's going to happen, if it's going to close, if you're going to get it across the finish line. So nobody knew until the documents were signed and the money was in.
But I think it was like that week or something. And you did not say a single thing. I was a little offended.
I know, this was like July.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think we had closed yet.
But congratulations. I mean, we're gonna get to that. Yep. But I mean, how does it feel like that is like the American, the entrepreneur's dream to have an exit.
Yeah.
And to have an exit that went well. Like, can you talk about just how you feel right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's not one emotion. There's a lot of emotions. I mean, you could both of you could think about like, you could just put yourselves in a world where you're not, in charge of or leading the strategy, the vision, building whatever it was you currently are building. And
so there's some sorrow in that.
There's
too.
a little bit, and I wouldn't say it's sorrow for me. And it's funny because I've read a lot of blogs and I've talked to other entrepreneurs. Everybody goes through like this post kind of sale kind of process where you're kind of, who am I? What am I doing with myself? For me, it's not sorrow. It's just like, what's next? And we kind of joked. I joked earlier, it's like, I don't even necessarily know what I'm good at because
we do. I asked you your personality and you're like, I don't even know anymore.
Yeah. Well, so I ran supply for 7 years and I'm still running the business.
Yeah.
So
they're keeping you on.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm going to be doing that for a while. So there's no major changes coming to my life right now. I mean, there are, but I'm still, still running the brand. All my employees came over, so no major changes.
But some of the pressures.
Oh, the pressure's off. I mean, in that regard, so the overwhelming, you ask what the emotion is. The overwhelming emotion is gratitude, relief in some ways. I wouldn't say relief like bad things are happening, but just, you guys know, just running something, there is a weight on you all day, every day. Yeah. We were talking the other day about how, I'll wake up at 2, 3 a.m. and just immediately I'm thinking about employment things, about inventory issues, about technology problems.
Yeah. And I woke up at 3 this morning and sent emails for an hour and a half.
Yeah. And you said you get up and you start working on those things. I can't do that. I got to go back. Like, I got to get sleep or it's going to be a rough day. So like I spend an hour or 2 hours thinking about those things while I try to fall asleep. So anyways, there is a sense where that weight has been lifted. Jennifer, my wife, and I, we started this business. And so
it's your baby.
It's our baby. We bootstrapped it. It's all our capital. We raised no outside investment, even though we got a deal on Shark Tank. We can talk about that later. So, it's all of our money on the table. It's all of our work, sweat, blood, tears, and so the more the company grows, the more chips you push on the table, right? And you don't really, at least with an inventory-based business, meaning I sell physical products, you don't really take chips off the table when you build a company. You just keep putting them in, buying more inventory.
Chips meaning money?
Money, yeah.
Okay.
So if there's profit in a e-commerce business, unless you're just like throwing off cash like crazy and you're growing, if you want to 2x your sales next year, you have to buy 2x the inventory to hit those sales. So most of the time.
So as the business grew, you're reinvesting everything is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So you may be profitable. And this is just a uniqueness of an inventory, like an e-commerce or, a grocery store or liquor store down the street. You may be profitable, but if you're growing, your cash flow is almost nil because it's all going back into inventory. So anyways, there's just a lot of chips on the table in terms of, our work and our personal finances. And, it's nice to kind of have those. It's interesting because this new chapter, I get to run the company, but without like the stakes being so high for me personally.
And they're probably investing in it.
Yes, correct.
So you have more cash to play with. You can because they're buying it with the assumption that they can scale it even bigger.
Yeah, and if they want to scale
which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole goal for them is, hey, we think we can 10x this business as opposed to 2x.
Right.
Are you a small business owner or an entrepreneur? Do you do marketing for a small business? If so, I have something that I want to give you, and it's totally for free. We've put together a free resource at 6appstorytelling.com/download. And it's the secrets, it's the tips, it's the tricks, it's the tools of the trade. It's literally everything we do at 6app Storytelling to help small businesses grow. Go download it today at 6appstorytelling.com/download. This episode of Stories with Soul is sponsored in part by Project 202, the leader in experience-driven software strategy, design, and development. Whether you're looking to build a new software solution, redesign your mobile app, or kick off a digital transformation initiative, Project 202's customized approach creates solutions that work for your customers. Customer experience drives engagement, and cultivating that experience requires a ton of attention and time. Project 202 is local and has 18 years of design leadership. This team is an expert in using customer-centric methods to build compelling, data-driven customer experiences. Wherever you're at in your business journey, the diverse team at Project 202 will guide you from idea to execution. Go to project202.com. That's projekt202.com and click Contact to begin winning the hearts of your customers and exceeding your business goals today. But then there's the identity piece of this is my identity. This is my baby, you know?
Yeah. There's definitely the identity piece. And for me, it's less about like I associate myself with the business and more maybe I associate myself with the job and just kind of leading something and just having.
Also, your persona is the e-commerce razor guy.
It is, right? Yeah, it is.
Like you're kind of you're like a men's health, health. I don't know. This word, men's beauty. Is it a beauty product?
Yeah. Beauty, grooming. I say grooming.
You're like
grooming.
an influencer in that space. Like your Twitter.
Yeah.
You're like kind of Twitter famous.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe
a little bit.
Like you have like 20,000 people that follow you on Twitter.
I don't know why.
Because you talk about e-commerce.
I talk about e-commerce a lot.
And make like shaving videos and stuff. And so like, will you still be the shaving e-commerce guy?
I mean, for as long as I'm still running supply, I will be, for sure. That's the other thing is like, what, who am I? It's like I kind of built this persona around this product. And so if you kind of take that product and that industry away, it's kind of like, well, what's next? And I'm not saying like,
if you go to the supply website, like your Facebook feed for the next month will be your face getting shaved.
And I'm sorry for that.
I have all these retargeting ads and stuff, and it's like Patrick shaving event. Like, I love it.
Which is important though, because every brand needs a face. People, people want to buy from someone they know, they trust, and they know you now, and so they trust you, and so they keep buying from you. And so that's neat that you stepped into that persona, because it's not just a persona or an alter ego, if you will. It's kind of the necessity of starting something.
It is, I think, and you guys both know personally. I kind of reluctantly stepped into that role as the leader because we found in our advertising, there's a reason you get a bunch of ads with my face on it. It's what works. You know, people, and like the things I'm saying in my ads, I'm not making up. They're real. Like I'm telling the story. Like I invented the product to solve a personal problem. I've put, blood, sweat, and tears into this company so that I can sell people something that I believe will help them. Give them a better experience. So it's all meaningful, real things. But,
and people buy people.
Exactly.
And when you have like, that's the whole premise of what we're doing at 6-7 Storytelling, the marketing company is telling stories and showing real people in real life doing real, like people relate to that.
Yep.
And so people are like, I trust you.
Yep.
You had the same problems I have. You solved them. And when you speak about it, like, so I was saying that in jest, but also part of your identity is like
it is. You're right. You're right.
Famous shaving guy,
which I never would have guessed, but
which is okay. So
such is life.
So we'll talk a little bit about how that deal went down and all the stuff. We'll come back to that, but take me. So you were originally where are you from originally? Are you from?
Grew up in Houston.
You grew up in Houston.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in Fort Worth?
So I moved to Fort Worth after I went to school at UT in Austin, and that was in 2008. I came here to work for Lockheed Martin on the west side of town.
Okay, so you've been here since 2008. 2008, and we're kind of neighbors. We're like
down the street, down the street,
down the road. And then at Lockheed, so were you like an engineer on jets, or were you selling them?
A little of both. I started my my degrees in engineering, mechanical engineering. So I started my career there more on the engineering side.
Meaning you're like designing parts? I don't even know what that means.
No, really. For I worked on projects. So it was more project engineering. So, we were the guys in the, white collars kind of planning the projects, you could say. And so that was kind of the first half of my career there. And then the second half, I transitioned to what's called business development. And, happy to go into it. But the short story is, when we make jets, I say we, Lockheed Martin makes jets, and we, the American people, United States of America, on the west side of town, a lot of people don't know this about Fort Worth, but on the west side of town, the world's most advanced fighter military aircraft is manufactured piece by piece. It's assembled on the west side of town in White Settlement.
That's cool.
So the most advanced technology in the world is sitting,
like the stuff we just saw in Top Gun is
made. It's more so than that. So really cool. So that's something cool that most Fort Worthians don't know about.
I didn't realize it was assembled here. I knew they were like scientists designing.
There's an assembly line there. There's probably, I've been gone so long that I'm out of touch, but there's probably 100 jets sitting on that assembly line right now in various stages of construction. So anyways, so they make those jets, they sell them to the U.S. government, but they also sell them to allied governments around the world. I don't know the count anymore. It's probably like 12 or 14 governments that jet is sold to. So I worked on the campaigns to basically pitch these jets to foreign countries like
how much is
Korea.
A jet?
They're like $100 million starting. If you want the options, you got to go up to 150. But
$150 million. So you were working on the campaigns.
Yes.
You want to buy this $150 million.
So at that time, like South Korea was a customer that I worked on. Japan was another one. Israel was another one. There's a lot of other customers now, I'm sure. But
and your role was like marketing, sales.
So it's technically sales, but it's not sales like you think sales is. Like we're not cold calling anybody. Yeah. We're participating in negotiations and writing proposals, very technical proposals. And so the customer, who's the government of Korea, says, "Hey, we want to know all these things about your jet." And then all the engineers go and kind of write, "Okay, this is what you need to know, and then let's work together." Think about buying a car, all the research you do, and then multiply that times, 5 million. It's, okay, where are we going to park this thing? How are we going to charge it at night? How is it going to do exactly what you need it to do? So there's a lot of back and forth between Lockheed Martin, the U.S. government, and their government. And so we were part of that.
And were you and during that time is when you sort of had the epiphany for supply?
Yes.
Walk me through that.
Okay. So, it's funny. I have been doing a lot of reflecting, after you sell, you get, kind of like nostalgic. And, there were some pivotal moments with some coworkers there. I worked with a lot of really smart people. I can kind of like blend in and act like I'm smart, but I worked with really smart people.
Okay.
And so there was one particular coworker that was really pivotal to launching this company because he was just kind of helpful and advising and encouraging it. Anyways, and not on Lockheed time, by the way, on our own time.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
Lunches and after work. Anyway, so I had the idea that the long story short is I have never been able to shave with a multi-blade razor. So like a Gillette, the 5, 6, 12 blades without, getting a lot of bumps and razor burn right here.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you have to be clean shaven to sell jets and work at Lockheed.
Yeah, it's not like a rule, but everybody is. Yeah, and you're working with a lot of military guys.
Culture.
It's a clean shaven culture.
Yeah. So Jamie might not fit in.
No, sorry, buddy.
But he has the other persona.
That's why I don't shave. I haven't shaved in probably like 20 years because every time I shave it, I'll get all the bumps.
Exactly.
It's hard.
So I thought this was just like a personal thing, but the more I did research and the more I talked to other people, it was also a thing that a lot of people had problems with. Come to find out, we've done a lot of surveys, roughly kind of a third of guys have problems shaving with multi-blade razors. So went down this rabbit hole. If there's a niche you can find it on the internet, and there are forums where people talk about shaving. Believe it or not, that's all they do is they talk about shaving. So, and especially with these old style razors, these kind of what our grandparents used, single blade safety razors. The only thing that existed prior to like 1980 was a single blade safety razor.
And it's called a safety razor.
Because it was, at the time it was invented, it was more safe than the alternative.
Than like the big blade.
Exactly, than a straight razor, which is, what's the musical,
Sweeney
Todd thing. Yeah. So there were straight razors, and then in the early 1900s, there were safety razors. And there were two types invented. One is like the screw. You may have seen, like it's called a double edge. It's got a thin little blade. You kind of screw this little cap on, and that's one safety razor. And then there was this other version called an injector razor that was invented by Schick. And without boring you with all the details, they don't make injector razors anymore. I used an old one. I fell in love with it.
You like found one?
Yeah, you can buy them on eBay, like vintage razors. And you clean them up, pop some blades in them, and fell in love with it. And I thought, they don't make these anymore. These are amazing. I should make these.
So you went down the rabbit hole of like...
I went deep.
into these forums and stuff.
What I just told you was just the surface. I went deep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so bought one.
Bought one, used it, thought... And this was... I don't know. This is probably the I don't know, thing maybe I regret most about my business. And like, it's always hindsight, like 2020, I didn't know I didn't know anything about starting.
Tell me the regrets.
business.
I'm excited I like regrets.
I picked a really hard product and a really hard industry.
Product to make,
to sell. Yeah. But at the time, it was just like, oh, this is great idea.
It's a felt need.
Yeah, it's a great product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The extent of my business plan was, I think it's a good product and people need to buy it. There was no other.
And you're the customer. You're a customer. It's a real problem. It's a real need. And so you bought this and you're like, no one's making this. I should make it. Were you entrepreneurial before that? Were you like?
Not in any meaningful way.
Because typically when I think of an engineer, it's not.
No. Starter.
It's not start and not they're risk adverse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is very risky.
I was risk averse. I had like flecks of, kind of entrepreneur in me that I kind of always felt were in there, kind of buried deep inside somewhere. I just didn't know what it meant. I remember very distinctly when I decided, okay, I'm going to start this business. What I could imagine about all the most difficult things that it would take to start a business was just actually starting the LLC. Like, how do you actually, like, that was so foreign, and like that was an insurmountable task to me.
Okay.
Turns out it was just some paperwork and a few $100, but like that's how little I knew about entrepreneurship. Okay. Was I don't even know what it means to have an LLC or what those letters even mean. So anyways, we're kind of all over the place, but I had the idea. I got the product, and
you made that product?
Yeah, so I basically spent about a year trying to kind of redesign this product in a way that could be manufactured
on your computer. Are you like whittling metal?
Well, I took my knife and a little piece of stick. No,
but seriously, like I don't know how that, like making a product. I don't know how that.
Yeah.
A metal thing.
Well, it was very foreign to me at the time. I was making it up as I go.
We're like using CAD.
CAD. So I did have experience in CAD, being an engineer. A little bit of experience in light, manufacturing. I mean, I knew about manufacturing of
you're putting
jets,
the plans together for these jets, and you gotta get this bolt and
the problem I figured out was like what I knew about that was really not
didn't
applicable.
translate.
Yeah, it didn't really translate. I mean, it was helpful.
You're buying like millions and millions of dollars with the government's credit card.
Little tiny razor. So I designed a CAD, and over probably a year, I did what I call, guess and check, which engineering is kind of guess and check. It's like make a design, you print it out. I had the benefit of 3D printing.
Oh, that's cool.
So
you were
print
3D printing it.
Yeah, you print a prototype. At the time, I didn't have a printer, so I used a service that you kind of send your design off to called Shapeways, and they send you really, really phenomenal, time to be an entrepreneur. You send them the designs, they send you back the prototype, and you kind of try to use it, and you're like, well, that didn't work, or that didn't shave, or that, XYZ, make a little more tweaks, send off a new prototype.
And did you have a vision in your head of kind of what it would look like?
Roughly.
Because it happened over time. Very distinct, like uber clean lines.
That happened through this process I'm telling you about.
So that wasn't in your head. You kind of you stumbled upon that. As
pieces of it were in the head, but I wouldn't say like I woke up one day and was like, "This is what the product needs to be. This is what it needs to look like." Mm-hmm. It was kind of an evolutionary process over, I say a year, but it was probably more like 8 months.
And was your wife like, he just has this hobby? Was it for yourself, or you're like, this is a business, I'm gonna
God bless Jennifer. She has always been my number one supporter and fan, and never, I don't think once has questioned, said this is a terror. She's always just like, what do I need to do? And so she's my co-founder. I didn't sell the business. We sold the business. We own the business 50-50. I was, the leading force behind it and the CEO. But she was behind me all the way. And probably didn't always understand everything, but
going into it, y'all were like, this is a business we're starting.
No. So that goes back to like, regrets is the wrong word, but I didn't go in with any real business plan. So after I finished the design and the prototypes, and I got to a place where I thought, okay, this is a sellable product, which turns out it wasn't really. It needed more work, but we went to Kickstarter, which is, a crowdfunding platform where essentially you put an idea on there and you say, hey, if you want this product, cool product, nobody makes it, I want to make it. Wouldn't you like to pre-order this product? Is essentially you pledge.
Were you back? What year was that?
That was 2015 was our first campaign.
So Green River Ordnance, we were one of the first bands to use Kickstarter in 2010.
That was like when nobody knew what Kickstarter was.
And people loved, like, we funded our Under Fire album. We just left the record label, and it was neat. But people loved.
That's great.
The buy-in that comes with that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you get to.
It's a communal effort.
Yeah. Support this idea. It's really designed for products and stuff like what you're doing, but it was a big part of sort of our evolution of people getting to buy in and support the thing. So you made a bunch of designs. You had a concept or a product.
Yep.
Took it to Kickstarter.
Yep.
And
correct.
did someone tell you to do that, or did you just sort of?
I don't really remember. I don't think I knew any other way to do it. I mean, it was we needed to raise what I thought we needed was $20,000. Turned out that was not even close to what we needed, but we ended up raising like $80,000.
Which is, were you freaking out? That's a lot of money.
I thought I was like retired. It was like
80,000. How many people was 80,000?
Maybe it was like
2,000 people.
No, because the products. I mean, our products are definitely higher priced, and at that time they were even higher priced. So I think it was like 800 people, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but people are like, it was affirming.
Oh yeah,
because people were excited about this. Concept.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. We got covered by, I don't know if you all know the website Uncrate. I don't know if it's a thing anymore. It was big at the time, but I'll never forget. I can see it visual. My memories are very visually. Jennifer and I are sitting with our computers on the island, in our kitchen, launching the campaign. It's launch day. And then just randomly we start seeing like a ton of pledges come in, and we're like, and you can check the back end analytics, and we're like, we're clicking links. And when we see ourselves on the front page of Uncrate, we're like,
So that's kind of what they somehow picked it up.
They picked it up.
That was like your Good Morning America moment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. At that time, I think they covered Kickstarter campaigns a lot more. I don't think they do. Nobody really covers campaigns anymore. But that was kind of the initial kind of fuel that lit the fire. So I think we did 20K the first day, mostly thanks to Uncrate.
Which is your goal. So you're like,
that was our goal.
I can make this thing, this dream can be a reality.
Yeah. I thought I was off to the races.
But it sounds like you weren't. There's a message behind that.
Yeah. Well, it took me like another 2 years basically to deliver what I had promised to people. It was a little less than 2 years. It was about a year and a half. So it turns out it's a lot harder to make things than you imagine they are, especially something as complicated as a razor, which we don't have to go into it, but it's a very precise product.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at your razor, you see, regardless of what razor you use, the spaces and the gaps and the pieces, they're all really tiny, and everything has to be perfect, or else, we're talking fractions of a millimeter. If it's wrong, it doesn't work well.
Would, like, cut your face.
Or it slices your face up. Yeah. So, I was real naive going into it, and we basically used a manufacturing process that was really not suitable for making precise things. And I also used a vendor. I didn't know how to make stuff. You have to I tried to get a bunch of U.S. manufacturers to take me seriously. Nobody takes a kid with an idea seriously, and $80,000.
This episode is sponsored by the Fort Worth Business Press. As a Fort Worth entrepreneur and small business owner, the Business Press is my favorite source for news and updates about the entrepreneurial community in and around Fort Worth. I read their email newsletter literally every day. It's always full of insights and stories that really matter. Are you ready to be more connected? Sign up for their free newsletter at fortworthbusinesspress.com. But if you're like me and the newsletter just isn't enough, you can become an insider. With the code STORYTELLING10, all one word, you'll get a discount on the insider membership. Insiders receive exclusive access to special content, 24 issues of the Business Press delivered to your door each year, and discounts on event registrations and more. Join me and the Fort Worth Business Press in staying up to date on the people, companies, and issues that matter most to Fort Worth. This episode is brought to you by my good friends at Visit Fort Worth. Visit Fort Worth is the official destination marketing organization of the 13th largest city, and I would say the greatest city in the United States, dedicated to promoting Fort Worth as a premier business and leisure destination with thriving centers of creativity, culture, and commerce. Visit Fort Worth is the parent organization of the Fort Worth Herd, the Fort Worth Film Commission, Fort Worth Sports Commission, Visita Fort Worth, and Music Initiative Here Fort Worth. They are doing a lot of amazing things. For more information on Visit Fort Worth, head over to visitfortworth.com and follow them on social at Visit Fort Worth. And there's I think I read this quote from you that's somewhere online. It says there's no Google for product manufacturers. It takes a lot of grunt work, phone calls, and emails to track down. So you were like, okay, people gave me money.
Yeah.
I have this 3D printed version of it.
Somebody go make it for me.
And did you know anybody in the space?
No, I ended up, I called tons and tons of people in the U.S. Nobody wanted, most of them didn't return my calls. In retrospect, I don't blame them. There's a lot of work that goes into setting up a production line.
And they probably don't know what a Kickstarter is.
Yeah. And, $80,000 was a lot to me, but it's nothing to them, or 1,000 units, 2,000 units, it's nothing. So, in desperation, I'm looking everywhere I can. So I went to, I think, Upwork and just found this guy who was there's a whole industry of people who are kind of what I call middlemen. There may be a better word for it, but they work with U.S. companies to offshore manufacturing, usually in Asia. So this guy was like, yeah, I'll find you a manufacturer. I'll take care of it. No problem. I'll do everything. And turns out he was, not a very honest guy, not very good at what he did. And I'll never forget, so we promised a March delivery of our razors, and he just kept pushing the deadline back. And finally he delivered in April. He shows up on my doorstep with
he actually himself?
Yeah. Because they had been shipped to him. He lives local here, which was one thing I loved about him. At least at the time, I thought that was a great thing. He shows up on my doorstep with a dolly of big boxes, which is he's bringing the razors. Today's the day, and it's a glorious day. We got these things. We're gonna ship them. I got friends in the living room, ready to pack them up and ship them out. And
you're having to. And you told your Kickstarter backers, "Hey, it's gonna be here by March." Yeah. So you had to keep pushing that back.
Oh yeah, and backers they believe in you, but then, they're also they don't know you.
Where's my thing?
Where's my thing?
I spend a bunch of money for this razor.
Exactly. So, when you start pushing the deadline back, they start to get a little antsy. I remember Jennifer and I still laugh about this. We'll never forget this quote. I had one backer tell me, this is the best insult I've ever had in my life. He said, it's clear to me you and the truth do not collide in reality. I was like, oh my God. What is it? I think that's a great insult. I don't even know.
You and the truth do not collide.
You're not a liar. You just can't collide with the truth.
That's great.
So anyways, meanwhile, I'm probably, I'm doing everything I can to deliver what I promised. For me,
you're hammer calling this guy.
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah. For me, and you may feel this, like for me, my name is what's most important. Like if my business fails, like fine, but like I want to go down swinging and people know, and I did everything I could to do right by my customers.
Yeah, you're not trying to screw anybody.
No. But anyways, he shows up on my doorstep. He drops off the razors. Yeah, today's a great day.
And were they made in like India?
They're made in China.
China.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you send money. Was it also kind of nerve-wracking? I'm sending all this.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Just give money and hope that something comes back on the other end.
So it shows up at your doorstep.
And as he's leaving, he says, by the way, there's a problem. Like, okay, like what problem? He's like, well, the blades don't load. I'm like, well, that's a big problem. You need to put blades in the razor for them to shave.
For it to be a razor.
Yeah. Anyways, we spent the next probably year. We sent out, they were okay products. They weren't great products.
The blades wouldn't go in them?
You had to kind of like monkey with them to get them in. If you've seen a razor, it's got this like loading mechanism and it's a very precise thing that's got to work perfectly. And so we told customers like how they could kind of like make it work if they wanted to like take delivery. But then we also told them, hey, if you don't want to take delivery of this thing, we're going to try again. And so we spent like the next, I don't remember, 8 months.
Did they refund your money?
No, you get the money as the creator,
and
it doesn't go back.
But like you had bought all these razors that didn't
Oh
work.
no, he didn't refund my money. I lost all that money. Yeah.
So you took all this, you got all this money from people.
Yeah. You gave it away.
Gave it to China middleman guy.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back with razors that don't load, and
Yep.
Did you have more money? Did you have to? Like,
no, we dipped into our savings to do the next round of production. And so we did, and probably about 2 years after the original campaign, we finally had kind of a shell of a business that was set up and
so it took you like 3 years to have the real.
Essentially, yeah.
And at this point, you had taken the leap. You're not at Lockheed. You quit your secure full-time salary degree-esque job.
Yep.
And that had already happened prior to this?
No, I quit about 1.5 years after this Kickstarter campaign.
Okay.
So this whole mess is going on while I'm still working a day job.
So you still still got income.
Because supply ain't paying the bills. Not even close.
Right.
So the first 1.5 years.
Okay.
But you're doing double duty.
Yeah, for sure.
So the blades came. You finally got, it's like 2 years later.
Yeah.
It finally came.
Yeah.
And I read somewhere, let's see, we had blown through, you had said we blew through almost 2 times our original Kickstarter funding.
Yeah, that sounds
3
right.
times our manufacturer schedule and 4 times our typical daily caffeine intake.
That last part may have been exaggerated.
Yeah, okay. But you finally got it, and they were beautiful. Was it what you had wanted?
Yeah. Yes. So the answer is yes. We've gotten way, way better over time. So like iteration 1 was bad, iteration 2 was good, 3 was like, we're on like version 4 of the product by now. So each one gets better.
And you did a second Kickstarter and a third Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, we've done three Kickstarters.
And the second one you wound up raising like $200,000.
Yeah, we raised more on the second one.
Which is a lot of.
Yeah, it was a lot more money then. And then I don't remember what we raised on this last one. We actually did another one last year for our most recent version of the product.
Oh, you did Kickstarter again?
Yeah.
So Kickstarter has been a big part of your business model.
It has. Yeah, for these products in particular, we have a lot of other products. So the razor is our hero product, but we have skincare. We're coming out with the beard care line soon, so we'll get you some. So we have other products, but Kickstarter is only a good platform for like kind of groundbreaking or like exciting products. Like I'm not going to go to Kickstarter to launch a beard balm, right? But our new kind of generations of our razor have been exciting enough to put them on Kickstarter.
And was there something like in your mind where you kind of resolved and decided, I'm not going to look for investment. I'm not going to go a VC route. I'm going to go to the people. I'm going to go to my savings account.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a binary, like a black and white at some point, fork in the road of, okay, when you're at a point where you're like, okay, we need cash.
Yep.
We need to infuse cash. And then the next step, and you kind of decided against that route.
Yeah. Well, for us, it was actually a lot more murky than than just one decision, because we actually tried at least twice, maybe 3 times. My memory gets a little fuzzy, but at least twice I can recall to raise money. Once was with this private investor a long time ago, not really a story worth telling. And then the other one was on Shark Tank, where we got a deal and we actually tried to close the deal, didn't end up closing it. So we tried a few times to raise money. At the same time, though, I also didn't want to raise money because, and this is just, I think my personality, this isn't necessarily the right way to do it, but I just didn't want anybody else really involved. And I didn't want to have to, report to anybody else.
Yeah.
Or like something about spending other people's money, just I didn't feel comfortable with when I was still figuring out the business.
Yeah.
If I had like this, hey, we've got this formula where, we do this, we do X, we do Y, we get C, and all we need is more cash to throw on the fire. I would have probably raised more money, but we were still figuring it out all the way through, like basically this year.
That makes sense.
But no, we didn't end up raising any money.
Well, and I think you're in a certain seat today, and then there are other people who are in ideation, which now we can watch all of their documentaries of their things blowing up on Hulu. Yeah. But the people who are in that ideation phase, and they're knocking on doors thinking, I'm about to change the world with this idea. Yeah. And so it's just a different type of personality. But I think it's neat that full circle, we're not watching your Hulu documentary of how supply went down in flames, but instead we're here celebrating.
I have watched the WeWork.
It's just fascinating to watch.
Yeah, like his, I don't have that. I don't have that personality. I think I could probably raise money now, knowing what I know about starting and running a business and just operating. Yeah, my experience. Like I would feel more confident, but I don't think I would have the confidence, 6 years ago, I would have never had the confidence to say, hey, invest in me, because these investors, they're investing in people, not really in ideas. Right. And like I wasn't a
Were you kind of second guessing yourself that the whole time? Or?
No, I just wasn't an investable person yet, because I was figuring it out as I went. I didn't have any kind of experience to like be able to convince somebody.
You learned everything the hard way.
Yeah, exactly.
You had what that means is you have done it now. Here you are.
Yeah.
But that means all of your lessons, or most of your lessons, were just, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this.
They really were. And I don't know another way to do it. Like I have my MBA in strategy and entrepreneurship, from SMU, but nothing there I learned, I don't want to say nothing. There were some really
nothing
helpful.
I learned at school.
Give me my money back, SMU. No, I'm just kidding. It was a great degree. I'm not, but like very little of that was applicable to, like, I never opened up an old textbook or called up an old professor.
Did you meet anybody else in the manufacturing space that helped you?
Along the way, I met people. So, my entire success is based off of people, like, and God's grace to putting people in my life that helped me along the way. Like every single good decision in my career trajectory, I mean, not every single one, but most of them are thanks to somebody. Either, in fact, I was just thanking somebody the other day, just taking a phone call with me and giving me a piece of advice that turned out to be really pivotal,
Wow. Or
somebody making an introduction. So like my manufacturer that makes my razors now was thanks to a random guy that I knew. I followed on Twitter and I knew about his company. He made water bottles. Soma, I think was the name, or water filters, started on Kickstarter. Anyways, I emailed him randomly. I said, hey, I need a new manufacturer. I don't know why I even emailed him, but I said, how's your guy? And he goes, oh, let me introduce you. Here we are 3 or 4 years later. I'm still using those people.
I was going to ask you how you found you're a better manufacturer. Yeah. So it was just, you just emailed this guy who made water bottles.
Yeah, exactly. And I have lots of manufacturers. We manufacture all over the world. We have manufacturers here in Dallas and India and Mexico, and some of them are just like luck, like my Indian manufacturer, he makes these marble products for me. I think I found him on like, I don't know, Upwork or Google or something, or Alibaba, and just like, well, I'm going to send him some money and hope it works out. Like I remember that first wire I sent him, and like,
really?
Yeah. And like, it just worked out.
Did you ever go travel and like meet him or see the places?
Did you go to factories?
I've been to, our suppliers in China once. I've really wanted to go to our supplier in Mexico. I never have. And India, no offense to anybody, I have no interest in visiting India. I don't think my stomach would do well with the food.
It's a crazy place.
It is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We've been a few times.
Yeah.
With some of our friends, we're starting an essential oil company.
Yeah.
So we went to all these oil manufacturers down these
and glass companies
glass
bottles.
Down these dark alleys. And
I'm sure it's a really cool place.
It was
something
crazy.
that I do well there. They're some of my best. They are my longest running suppliers. I've been with them since 2016, basically.
Wow. That's
reliable, on time, never had a single problem with them. And so like, that's just kind of, in my opinion, that's just the grace of God, you know, like I sent 50 grand overseas and beautiful things happen, you know, whereas
so wild.
The alternative could have been I sent 50 and never heard from anybody again, which, you know, I've certainly gotten scammed before as well.
Have you read Shoe Dog, the Nike story?
Amazing book.
It's so like anyone who does manufacturing, I'm like, you should read that book because it's so much of their story was that. Yeah. You send a bunch of money over and you hope it comes back right. Yeah. And sometimes it comes back wrong and then you run out of cash because a huge part of your business is it's so cash intensive.
It's cash intensive.
You have to like up front before you have a product, buy it. You don't get that product for 4 months, 3 months, 6 months.
Yep.
And so you don't have any money coming back in on the money you just sent out. And that's whereas like real estate, if you're a real estate agent, you're like, I'm just selling this.
Great. I would love to run a software business or a service business. It's cash intensive. And like really what you're hearing through all of these stories is it's like any other business. It's all about your relationships and taking care of people and trusting people to take care of you. Like at the end of the day, the only thing holding my business together is trust and relationships with people. Like I could get a call tomorrow and my Indian supplier could say, you know what? We're not going to send that stuff we told you we'd send you. You know, we're going to keep the money. There's nothing I can do. Like I can't sue them. There's nothing I can do. You know, the same thing could happen across the world with all my suppliers. And really at the end of the day, all you have is integrity and trust and relationships. And so I depend on people, you know, as much as you do.
How do you cultivate, like, was there something you did for, like, do you call and check in? Do you send them letters? Do you like?
No, it's just, it's like years of doing what you say you're going to do, respecting people, it's surprisingly not hard to make people feel valued, you know, by just treating them with respect and telling them thank you and telling them when they're doing well. One of my hardest jobs, the hardest lines for me to find as a CEO and as a manager and as a manager of relationships with external vendors is like knowing the line between like expecting excellence and like coming down hard on things when excellence isn't exceeded, but also like extending grace and kindness and like, so like I have to do both at the same time. And it's a really hard line to find. I don't know if you guys have that same internal conflict, but I have that probably every day.
Well, and treating someone like a whole person, you're not just your job. You have these external circumstances that you bring in every day, as do I. And so how can I humanize you and also hold you to a high standard? It's a tough balance.
And then also run a business at the same time.
And it's this dichotomy because you also want to like you said, trust. And trust is like, I empower you to do something. Yeah. And so I feel like I yo-yo all the time of like, I trust you. I empower you. Yeah. Go run with it. Yeah. I don't care. Just get it done. I trust you too. I care a freaking lot. And now I'm micromanaging you and I'm jumping out like, my team is like, Jamie doesn't care about some things, and then he really, 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 really cares about some things, and it's like, which one is it? Yeah. But that's a hard. But you probably care a lot about the look and the feel and how it functions and the integrity of the product. Yeah. But you also want to like trust your team to do what they do and empower them to. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it's almost impossible in some ways.
Well, and that's what's unique about Shark Tank is that you get this quick moment to get these people who are well respected in their fields to trust you enough to make a deal, which is and you did it. Can we talk about that? I feel like
so was Shark Tank, it seems like Shark Tank was always part of your business plan. It's just kind of like, I'm going to win lotto.
It's part of everybody's business plan, right?
It's like, I like lotto tickets. I buy lotto tickets. Really? I think I'm going to win at some point. But it's like, But it seemed like you applied for Shark Tank how many times?
3 times.
3 times.
3 times, yeah.
So was in your mind, were you like, I'm going to be like, was that a part of the plan?
No. I mean, it was very, I don't want to say flippant, but it was never part of like.
It wasn't part of the plan.
It wasn't part of the plan. It would certainly be nice, like if it would have been, you know. But I mean, I'll never forget the reason I applied the first time. I told people January of 2017, you know, I gave my 2 weeks at work. And I was telling my friends, you know, here's what's, you know, my coworkers, here's what's going on. Here's where I'm going. And like,
because it was going so well, you were like, it's time.
Oh,
or it was just too much time, like too all consuming. Or
why did I leave?
Yeah.
Why did I make the leap? 2 reasons. It was becoming all consuming to where I wasn't doing either of my jobs well.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I had to pick between one or the other. And so that was kind of decision 1. Decision 2 was if I don't pick this thing, then I will probably regret it the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And like also like I was getting at the point in my career where I either like stayed there forever or did something else. And like it was like it's a weird thing with that particular industry. Like there's not a lot of transferable skills. You can't go from being, you know, 10 years at Lockheed Martin to like being a lawyer or, you know, it's hard. Anyways. So I decided we were going to make the leap. I gave Jennifer and I went on a road trip, you know, very, you know, cliche, you know, dreaming. And we decided, hey, we're going to do this. And we gave ourselves a year to where we kind of had some savings and we were like, give ourselves a year. And if we're not paying the bills by a year from now, then we'll shut it down. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we'll have did what
and
we
you
did.
had the Kickstarter, so you knew people.
Yeah, we had the Kickstarter. And
people were excited about it.
We knew it felt like there was something there,
some
but
momentum.
There wasn't anything there enough to start, you know, paying the bills. So Jennifer still worked at the time. She was a teacher. She was paying the bills while, you know, we tried to get it off the ground. But I told people I was leaving, gave my 2 weeks. And I remember there were at least like 3, 4, maybe 5 of them were all like, the first question was, well, are you going to go on Shark Tank? And like, I guess that's just like people associate entrepreneurship with Shark Tank. You know?
Yeah, especially product based.
Yeah, especially if you're not an entrepreneur and like you live in the corporate world, that's probably your only like connection. So like be the first thing we asked. And I thought, well, I mean, I probably should. So I remember this was on work time. Sorry, anybody who's
Lockheed, if you're listening.
Yeah, just a quick Google search. I went back to my desk and I was like, well, I guess I should. So I went back and I was like, Shark Tank, how to get on Shark Tank, Shark Tank tryouts. And it was like Shark Tank tryouts, you know, January 27th, Dallas, Texas. And I'm like, oh crap, that's like next week. So I applied the next week and spent the next 5 months going through this arduous process with paperwork, video, you know, auditions, phone calls, you know, there's like a bunch of stages. There's like steps in the process.
It's hard to get on.
Yeah, it's hard to get on.
Harder than it appears.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of steps. And they don't tell you what the next step is until you're at the next step. Mm-hmm. It's like, don't call us, we'll call you, sort of thing. It's kind of like a secret, you know, club initiation, you know, kind of thing. So you're always like kind of in the dark about what's next. I went through this long process and we got to the point in the process where we were basically we had made our pitch. So like the pitch that they do at the beginning of the segment, we had drafted our pitch. We were starting to design our sets because everybody's got a set, you know, that they go on stage. And the call that we were going to talk about our set design, you know, instead of talking about our set design, they were like, you're not going to, this is it. This is the last call.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did they say why?
No, they never tell you why.
You were a Shark Tank reject.
I was a Shark Tank reject. Yeah. I went in like a tailspin because at that time, like.
Did you start second guessing yourself?
Well, I just like knew I was going to be on Shark Tank.
Okay.
Like, we are
so at
going.
That point.
I mean, we're designing my set, you know?
Yeah.
And like the next week, like I just like was, I mean, in the dumps for. It wasn't like I was depending on this or like anything like that, but like this thing I knew that was going to happen.
The wind out of your sails.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And did you start thinking like, is my product not good enough?
Oh, yeah. All the things. I mean, I ride the roller coaster for sure. And so like that, you know, all the things you think at the trough of the roller coaster, I was thinking. But picked myself up, you know, got back to work, kind of forgot about it. And then try it again the next year. Actually, I just emailed the producers that I had been working with the next year. I said, hey, we want to try it again. And they were like, not going to work out. So it was just one email.
Okay.
So that was try number 2.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out on both of these seasons, I got rejected. There were other like shaving companies on them. So I tell myself like,
that's probably
maybe they had too much shaving going on. And by the way, like, you could have the most amazing product and still get rejected. It's all about programming.
Right.
They don't care necessarily about how great your product is. They care about making good TV. We're not going to have like 5 razor companies on one episode.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Is my thought process. So that was year 2. And then year number 3, I emailed them. And they said, yeah, let's do it. And so we started the process back over again. We used the same pitch, that we had drafted.
You kept your set?
Yeah, I kept my set
you
design.
You kept the set the whole time?
It ended up, I think, being the same design.
Wow.
Same pitch, basically. We kind of tweaked the pitch a little bit. But
and by then, too, you'd had a bunch of sales. Like
way more. If we had made it the first year, it probably would have been a disaster. Because not only did we not have good sales to present on stage, but if we had actually gotten the sales that from the airing that we ended up getting, it would have.
Product wasn't as good as
it wasn't good. It would have been it might have closed our business because the product, we would have sent out a bunch of bad product or not sent out enough or whatever. I know people that their companies have been
gone under because
of Shark Tank, or they tried to ramp up their production line and bad things happened and they sent out, anyways. So, long story short, we got on the 3rd year, and this time I had a lot of hope, but I never knew it was certain. You don't know. So you can be flown out to film and you can actually not film.
Oh, wow.
Or you can film and you cannot air. Like there are people I know that have filmed and didn't actually air. So like this time I was like, I'm going to hope for the best, but not plan on it. And we didn't actually know we were going to air until like 3. They don't tell you until 3 weeks before you air.
Wow.
And we made it.
And you did.
Yeah, we made it.
And were you nervous? Had you done much like media or interviews?
Yeah,
or
no. The short answer is no. The longer answer is like I did musicals in high school and like I do my commercials for my.
Oh, you did musicals?
Business.
You did theater as a kid?
Yeah, I did musical theater. And so like.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. You want me to do a little Oklahoma?
You sing?
No, I don't anymore. I don't anymore.
But y'all were great on camera.
We practiced.
You and your wife were both very...
Yeah, y'all were charismatic. You were fun, engaging.
Energy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We practiced a ton.
Oh, you did?
But I've never been so nervous in my life.
Uh-huh.
Jennifer and I, the joke is like, we don't even really remember what happened. Like
your heart's going.
It was like, it's like the Ricky, I think it's Ricky Bobby, where he's like, I blacked out, what happened? It's like, we got off the set and we were like, well, like what just happened? Because it felt like we just blacked out. But I mean, we do remember, we kind of started to piece together after the week after we filmed, we'd be like, one of us would turn to the other one and be like, do you remember when? And like, I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember when he said that, or
Yeah.
Did you have a number in your? Like, I know you say like, here's what we want.
Yep.
And I'm assuming in the back of your mind you also have here's my threshold.
Yeah.
Of that, because the hard thing is you have to make a decision
on the spot.
I'm trying to remember what did you remember what the terms were? Like y'all were asking for 300.
I think it was 300,000 for 10%.
10%.
Yeah, that was it. And the offer that Robert ended up making was 300 for 15.
And had you thought through that scenario?
I had. It's so funny. We practiced everything, like to the like we were ready. Okay. We were so ready. And I the kind of running joke between Jennifer and I in our house is that when I took my MBA, I took 2 classes on negotiating.
Oh, okay.
And they're called master negotiation. That's the name of the course. And so, I'm always like, Jennifer, I got this. I'm a master negotiator. And so before we would joke before the pitch, they don't know what's coming. I'm a master. I'm gonna negotiate, the crap out of them. And I get on stage and like, it felt my master negotiation just fell apart. Cause like, I remember It's funny if you look back. I thought at the time I was more good at what I was doing, but if you watch the episode, Robert's like, $300K for 15%. And I was like, yeah, but Robert, would you like maybe consider, 12, just like maybe come down a little bit? And he was like, no. And like my memory is like, I really gave it hard to him. But like when you watch it, it's like, back. Yeah, it's like I did not do well at all. But so the number we ended up settling on was we had decided what a walkaway point would be, and that was within the walkaway point.
Mm-hmm. So you said yes.
So yes.
But then you didn't take the deal, right?
So it's a
yeah, how does that work?
It's a seldom known fact about Shark Tank that what happens on stage doesn't really mean anything. It's not a deal. It's just a verbal
LOI.
It's an LOI.
So to speak.
There you go. It's
so to speak, which like in real estate world doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
Just here's kind of the terms.
Yeah.
And then lawyers get involved, I'm assuming.
Lawyers get involved. There's term sheets. I won't say anything disparaging, but and there you can Google it. There are studies that have been done. Many of these sharks close a small fraction of the deals that they do on air. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. They're going on 12 seasons. How many hundreds, thousands of episodes?
Millions of dollars do they have?
They don't have the money to. And by the way, most of these, and I'll say this as somebody who's been on the show, most of these investments are not good investments. Like they're just not. You're better off parking your money in, an index fund than investing in, most of these companies. So like, I don't blame. In retrospect, I don't really have a lot of bitterness about the whole thing, but at the time, like I thought he was serious,
So what they wound up putting on the pen to paper wasn't what they said in the episode?
Things didn't end up the way that they were talked about on the episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that you changed your mind.
Mm-mm.
It was that there was a disparity between what you thought and what was actually happening.
Yeah. And it was more about the terms of the deal. Okay. There are some
control type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're someone who is always like, I want the control.
Yeah. There are a lot of ways when you're making deals like these for, the buyer to kind of get some gotchas into the legal language. That I had a really good lawyer based here in Fort Worth. Thanks, Doug. Really? You're awesome. Who was like, oh, that's not good. He kind of ran circles around, he did really good work. And so we got to the point where it wasn't something that I was willing to sign. And so we just came to an impasse. And
but you got all this marketing,
tons. So I got the prize, which is the marketing,
which
right?
you were on TV.
Yeah,
and y'all's pitch was great.
Yeah, the real prize is the airing, like the deal. So we ended up cash flowing the deal amount, within like 3 or 4 days of just sales.
So your sales went up that much.
Oh yeah, we had it's still I think one of our record months, if not our record month of sales.
How many razors did you sell after that?
I don't remember units. I mean, tens of thousands. I don't remember exactly.
And did you have them ready? Did you have to
No, we had what we thought would be enough to be ready, but we didn't. We didn't have enough ready. So that was a whole other deal where we dealt with backlogs and pre-orders, and
oh gosh,
fortunately made quite a few people upset. Did our best, but
that kind of took y'all to another level.
It was kind of an inflection point for us. Notoriety.
When was that?
November of 2019.
So it's right before COVID.
About 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago.
Okay. And that kind of it legitimized you and put you on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're like, you have enough business where I don't need investment anymore.
Correct.
I don't need that or want that. And it also became a huge part of your marketing. For better or worse.
As
seen on Shark Tank, it's attractive.
Yeah.
It's an authority.
It is. You'll see, you've seen our ads.
Mm-hmm.
We try to make it a very small piece of our story, like just kind of this little trust building, a little spice on top. Like for a long time, it was like, buy our stuff because we were on Shark Tank, it's like, and it worked. But like, we didn't want to be the Shark, brand that's all they're known for is being on Shark Tank. So we found it does still help. Like it helps to have that little kind of authority building. So it's part of a lot of our advertising, just a little piece of it. But I'm also obviously on those clips that are on Shark Tank, so it's part of the what we were talking about earlier. Yeah, the founder story. So
yeah, it's a founder and a face, and it's a story.
Exactly,
which is like the magic combination.
Yeah.
In my mind, to building a great brand. Like great brands have a face, they have a human element, and they have a story. So it gave you a cool story.
Yeah.
So then the next 2 years, COVID hit, and your type of businesses did really well.
Yes.
Like people had money because they weren't going out.
Yep.
So like they were buying
online
stuff.
Everything. Yeah. What did you buy online?
I bought a lot of wine. I got really into wine, and
this is true. Boxes of wine on our front porch.
Boxes of wine, and also like health stuff. I was buying all these like vitamins.
Yep.
Made a gym.
Got way down
weights.
that. What did you buy?
I was drinking your wine.
But did you buy anything? Did you buy?
I don't think I was really. Yeah. I probably went on a first time freeze.
Of not buying stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went frugal. Other people were like...
I was getting nervous. I was just nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Yeah.
But people were buying business went up. I remember you telling me that 2020, your business
2020 was a great year, especially the second quarter. So, right when COVID hit, it's really interesting because, COVID hit and it was like the entire e-commerce. So I got a lot of friends that run e-commerce brands, and the whole industry was terrified.
Everyone was terrified across everything.
Yeah, I'm sure, across the world. But it turned out very quickly that there was no need for that terror, because there was a week or two of just kind of down weeks of sales. And then after that, it was just through the roof. And so March and April and May were really great months for us.
Wow.
The rest of the year was good. I wouldn't say it was outrageously good, but it ended up being a really good year for us.
Did y'all have any of the supply chain issues? Because so much of what you're doing is overseas.
We at that time, today we have supply chain issues, but at that time, actually the only thing we ran out of was this little sprayer that we use on our post-shave bottle. Because everybody was using them for sanitizer.
Right.
So we couldn't get this sprayer. So I had to get in a different color or something like that. But otherwise, 2020 was pretty easy in terms of COVID. 2021, freight prices went through the roof. This year, supply chain issues. So
everything is more expensive.
Everything's more expensive. We're still feeling the after effects for sure. But 2020 was a surprisingly great year for us.
So I have a couple questions. I'm trying to decide which way I want to go. You mentioned you had a bunch of other friends in the e-commerce space, and you're very much, we were joking about it earlier, but you're very much a presence in that space of e-commerce products. Are there any other e-commerce brands that you loved that were kind of inspirations, and or e-commerce sort of other founders that you looked up to or became comrades? Or...
Sure. Gosh, it's hard to pick. There's so many. I became a real, when I commit to something, I go deep. So I became a real junkie of studying other brands and other founders, and but the ones that come to mind are the ones that have helped me. So I mentioned earlier there's a brand called Mizzen in Maine that's men's clothing. The founder and the CEO is
really fancy, great shirts that don't wrinkle.
Yeah. So they started in Dallas, and the CEO got on a call with me just randomly, some stranger, gave me some advice. I mentioned the Soma guy earlier. I became it's really funny. Probably my best friendship. This is really, Twitter has been great for me. I have no interest in building a personal brand, to be honest. But what I love about Twitter is two things: making friends in this space and helping other people. And so there's not a lot of people in Fort Worth that do e-commerce. There's a few, but not really. I mean, Solo Stove is based up in, I think, Keller. That's the kind of the local big one.
Know that. That's cool.
And there's others. It's not nobody's. It's not a scene here though. Yeah. So if I want to commiserate and cry about supply chain issues, or cheer about COVID sales, I got to go online to find these friends. So I'll wind up to say one of my best friends I've made over the years is this guy named Eric Bandholz, who runs this company called Beard Brand. So all they do is sell beard products.
Okay.
All we do is sell shaving products, except for we're about to come out with beard products. So he's become a great friend of mine. But I don't know if any come to mind because I've studied so many.
Are there any like things you've learned? I'm sure there's a lot of them, or tips or tricks about e-commerce in particular.
Yeah.
That make a great commerce brand. Like if I was like, I'm going to sell these bracelets.
Yeah.
I know. I'm curious too if it's because you could go in so many directions as far as what makes a good e-commerce brand, whether it's the brand and the marketing side, or if it's all the little SEO, Shopify plugin, tips and tricks, both of those things I feel like obviously are important, but what you would point at.
If I could, I'll reframe the question to something that would get something a little more helpful out of me, which is, what would I do if I was starting a new brand? Or what would I think is most important to pay attention to? And the very first thing I would say is pick a good product. And that's really, really easy to say. But, if you want to sell bracelets, I would say there's got to be something really special. Either you got to have something really special about that bracelet that's going to make people come buy your bracelet, or you have to have an audience built in already, or a personality to go make that audience through TikTok or Instagram or whatever. But the mistake I made was I'm going to make this great thing and people will come buy it. It's not if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And
I tell my marketing clients that all the time.
Yeah.
Just because you have, I say that literally all the time. Field of Dreams was wrong.
Yeah.
Just because you have it, they will not come.
Yeah.
Well, and then you don't think about it. Like for us, we, at Worthy Co, we make candles, and never in a million years would we think, oh my gosh, this is the heaviest thing to ship. If you do a pop up, it's the heaviest thing to load up.
Light.
It melts in your, climate control. People can't smell it on the internet. There's just all these things that you're not thinking about on the front end.
The returns if they don't like how it smells or they don't like how it shaves. So jewelry is the best thing ever to sell because it's expensive and it's light. Doesn't cost you anything to ship. It's got high margins. It's very expensive. So that's like a perfect example of a good product. But the flip side of that is, how are you going to generate demand for that jewelry? Well, you better either be like an Instagram star or have, something about that jewelry that everybody wants. So I would think a lot about the product first. You don't have a good product, don't start the business. Or just keep in mind that it's going to be a small business. There's nothing wrong with a small business.
So do you feel like you had a good product? It was a niche. Do you feel like you had a niche?
Yes. I feel like I had a great product. I have a great product. I believe in the product. But it was great in that it's just a good product and it stands on its own as a good product. I wouldn't pick it again as
because it was so hard to fine tune.
It was hard to make, very, very hard. It took me years to perfect it. I don't think I really perfected it until this most recent version that just came out last year. So that's due to a lot of things. Low capital, just, I could have accelerated that by having another $1 million in my pocket, pretty quickly. But anyways, it was a good product, not a great product. One of the reasons you mentioned about candles, when somebody buys a razor, razors are more subjective than you would think. They may love it or hate it. They may have questions about it. It's also an expensive razor. So I was going against the grain there. I'm trying to charge $60 for something that usually people pay $10 a month. So there was a lot of going uphill. On the flip side, I have a friend who from Twitter who just sold her company. She sells pimple patches. She just sold it for $600 million.
Oh my gosh.
She started it in 2019 or 2017.
Patches.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So super light, super high margin. And the other thing, the reason you got to keep buying them. And then the other thing, the reason I mention it is she was one of the first, she wasn't the first person to sell pimple patches, but she caught a wave. All right. So she wasn't having to generate that wave. She was riding it.
It was already kind of a thing. And she was shouting the loudest.
Yeah, exactly. And operating the best. And so that's a perfect product right there. So I don't mean to get off on a product tangent, but
super interesting.
She built $120 million company in 5 years or something crazy, mostly bootstrapped. Crazy result. So I would think a lot about the product. How much does it cost me to make it? I think a lot about your margins. So, in the early days, I had like 50% gross margins. And what that means is like, I would, if something, I'm charging $100 for something, it costs me $50 to make it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really fly in the e-commerce world. You got to have 75 plus.
Not including your time and your employees' time.
Yeah.
That just the cost of the material itself is 50%.
To make the product and get it on my doorstep.
Wow. Like that markup isn't
not quite
enough.
Yeah. So you by the way, it doesn't include shipping either. It costs a minimum of, depending on what you're shipping,
so what's
$6
the
to
rate?
$10.
So you said 75% is kind of the ratio.
75, 80 is better. 90 is better. Jewelry's usually at like 90 plus. Mm-hmm. I'm sure those pimple patches are at 90 plus.
Wow.
Most beauty products are at 90 plus.
And that's the thing people don't realize going, like the restaurant industry. When we opened Brood, like we didn't realize the amount of we were selling a burger and losing money on the burger.
Our best selling.
Because we didn't realize like your labor cost, and your food cost, and then your
how much is this
and all this
pickle? Yeah. It was a really good organic pickle, but it was an expensive pickle.
Mm-hmm. But figuring out the sort of what's the secret, the secret ratio there,
I can't imagine doing that in a restaurant because in my product, like I know what the inputs are. I know the blade costs. I know I know how, like a restaurant, like good night. And how many pickles are you wasting? Like when the chef's throwing around pickles, how many fall on the floor, and so like your costs. So one thing we talk about, what am I good at? Like I'm a really good operator, I've learned, and like paying attention to those details, and they're all really, really important. Mm-hmm. So your product, your margins on your product, 75% plus landed, and then how are you going to build an audience? How are you going to tell the story that you were talking about earlier? Ideally, it's a founder-led story. It doesn't have to be, but what's the story you're telling that's going to interest people?
Yeah, and I think like for a craft thing, this has been such a movement to craft things. We want craft beer and craft whiskey.
Yeah,
craft. I was buying wine, and for something to be craft and like made with like not mass produced, you want a founder. You want a guy who made this thing intentionally and thought through. Like, so I think those go hand in hand. And you were in sort of this craft upper echelon of men's beauty products. Which is why
grooming
having
product. Grooming product.
Grooming. That's probably the
beauty's okay. Yeah.
Word. How did you to make the demand? Talk me through marketing. Just like some of your marketing things you learned or your strategy.
Sure.
Well, we did this and it really turned the needle.
Yeah. So one of the strengths and weaknesses of our business is that it was built basically on the back of digital ads. So mostly Facebook and Instagram. So there's a reason you get those ads. We spend a heck of a lot of money on those ads, and you're seeing them all the time because of that. So it's a strength in that it's helped us to grow our business quickly. It's also a weakness that if things go poorly or something goes wrong, our business dries up overnight.
You spend a lot of money, like you have to keep feeding that.
Got to feed the beast. Yeah,
that beast.
So it's a big problem in the e-commerce industry. So like last year was a really tough year for us. Because
why was it a tough year?
There were some changes in the way Apple basically changed the rules on how we run digital ads. And whatever you think about this or not, this is how it used to be. I used to be able to track you not you, Jamie Ice, but I used to be able to say, hey, I want to show this ad to somebody, who lives in Fort Worth, who is such and such age, who is interested in XYZ, and who, follows, shaving blogs. And, Facebook had that info. They're like, you want to show that person? Great. Here's the ad to that person. So what that did is it made advertising online very effective, cost effective. The golden days of digital advertising were early 2010s. That's why you have all these big direct-to-consumer brands, Harry's, Warby Parker, they were all Dollar Shave Club. They're all built on the back of digital ads.
Hyper-targeting their audience.
Hyper-targeting digital ads.
Okay.
Really cheap. And Apple changed the rules of the game last year, and Apple basically said on any Apple device, you're not going to get that information from my customers anymore.
From the iPhone is what you're saying.
From the iPhone, from the Mac, from anybody. By the way, that information was always anonymous. It was never like Jamie.
You didn't know my name.
It was X2473225.
But you could pay and it would show up on my computer.
Exactly.
Because I liked whatever.
Yep. So you can still do that, but not nearly as effective as it used to be once Apple made these changes. And they made these changes last May. And so when they made those changes, our advertising basically dried up overnight. We went from growing and profitable to dying and unprofitable basically overnight.
Really?
And does that mean the way that you could tell is that you're putting feeding the beast the same amount your return?
Bingo.
Okay.
So let's say you're spending $10,000 a month on ads.
Yep.
And you were getting
20. Call it 2x.
20.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're spending $10,000 and it's like people aren't seeing it.
Yeah. You're spending 10 and maybe you're getting 10 back, but that doesn't account for, well, you actually have to pay for that product too. So you're actually losing money.
So what'd you do?
We pulled back significantly on what we were spending. And we kind of rebuilt the company. I fired all the agencies that were working on my ads and I started hiring internally. I built a marketing team basically from scratch instead of outsourcing it. We just got to work and we just started.
You shrunk your cost.
Yes, significantly.
So the output was still the same, but you shrunk how much it cost you to do all of that.
Yeah.
So it could be more profitable.
Yeah, exactly. And then we just kind of rebuilt and we just kind of slowly, one step at a time, kind of figured it out. And also, I can't take all the credit. Facebook kind of figured it out because basically this is a big war between Apple and Facebook. Apple is building their own ad business. And so they wanted to crater Facebook's ad business.
Interesting.
And so all the small business owners are kind of caught in the middle of this war, but Facebook learned how to kind of work around a little bit. And so we kind of felt our way through. It really felt like we were in the dark, because you're used to be, I know if I spend money, I'm going to get this back, or I spend it this way or spend it here. Mm-hmm. Now it's just going to kind of throw some money out there and hope that something good happens with it.
And it's I don't know that what they tell me is real.
Oh, that's the other part of it.
When they're like, 20,000 people saw this ad and 11 impressions and 12 clicks. I'm like, is that real?
Yeah.
There's
you actually can't really trust those numbers anymore.
You can't prove it, or is the other hard thing about that.
Yeah. Impressions and.
So, but you also you re-engineered it and kind of have a new code, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is that what you would say?
We built internal. We built a team, and then the other thing was we kind of unlocked these new creatives that you mentioned. You're seeing with me on it. We kind of. It's funny. In the early stage of my business, I was the face of the brand. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of hit this scale to where I was like, okay, I'm tired of being the face of the brand. We don't need me anymore.
Models.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of take a step back. And then through necessity, it was well, I'm back. And so we started putting me back in the ads and just to test them. And they started to be what started working.
Yeah. Wow.
So
you have a likable, trustworthy face.
Yeah. Don't you want to buy something from me?
And you also
Would you like a razor?
TikTok. You're doing TikTok too, right?
I started a TikTok channel. I've never been so enthralled and burnt out by something so quickly. So I started posting, and then I grew to we've got 500,000 followers
on TikTok.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And it's just me shaving, basically.
500,000.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
I had
Are
to
you doing it yourself?
I stopped doing it. I couldn't ride the ride. It felt like I was a gambling addict because every time I would post something, the rest of the day it'd be okay, how many views? How many comments and views?
The dopamine.
And it was just hitting hard, man. Harder than anything I'd ever experienced before. So I haven't actually.
I didn't realize you had 500,000.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So
I really, really wish I had the personality or the energy to open that sucker up and start posting again because.
So you stopped?
I haven't posted in 8-9 months, maybe longer. I haven't opened the app in probably a year. I've started having my employees
send it
post
to your team post?
We've tried to hire somebody. We've had to try to hire somebody for 6 months. We've been looking for somebody. If anybody's listening to this and wants to run my TikTok
and you
channel,
are a TikToker.
We're the salary we're offering is more than I made as a first year engineer at.
Hey, I'll run your TikTok.
I mean, Jamie.
Actually, I don't know how to do that.
It is a career
you
path.
have to shave, but you can.
You have to shave every day. We're trying to hire somebody to get it going again. I can't open that app. It's on my phone. I haven't opened it in a year. I don't know what it is. I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but I can't open it because there's some kind of
your
PTSD.
Your life is better. I always say this all the time. My life would be better without social media. but my businesses are so tied to it and contingent on it.
It's a problem.
I would love to not ever look at it again, although I secretly like it, which is why it's bad. I would love it for it to be gone, but it's like it's such a huge part of my brands and my business, and for me,
it kind of has to be if you're building a business today. It's one of the problems with building a business today is you're always on.
You have to be playing in that space, and that's one of the things. Like I always started storytelling. It's like you have to be playing in that content, social media space, and
but I feel like even just you mentioning that, it's very self-aware to know when you need to detox from certain digital vices or apps and things like that. And so are there things like that where it seems if you're self-aware enough to understand that you can't open an app that's on your phone, what are some of those things that you kind of lean on or withhold in order to be a good leader, to be a good husband, especially if you're walking through something like a sale of your baby and your company, you have to be kind of whole in order to walk through that in a healthy way.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I wouldn't say I walked through the sale in a very healthy way, to be honest. I mean, it was a grind. I think selling any business
or lessons learned through that process. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, since we sold the business, and this is maybe a luxury that others don't have. I took email off my phone. I took Slack off my phone. I took all social media except for Twitter off my phone. Because that's, in some ways, that's kind of life-giving to me. But there's not a single social media that's been on my phone or email that's been on my phone for over a month.
That's got to feel good.
I love it. I have read more in the past 5 weeks than I've read in the previous 5 years, which is great. That's been a great, but I wouldn't have been able to do that before I sold the company.
I have limits. So
I learned that from you. I do that too. Yeah, you told me about that.
At 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
My email, my internet, my Instagram and Facebook, I can't access them.
Yeah. And she's got the code?
She has the code.
We do the same thing. I heard you talk about it. Yeah. We do the same thing now. Yeah. That was a good tip.
It makes me like decompress.
Yeah.
Although my mail has been unlocked for like the past 3 weeks. I've been checking it. But it makes me like turn off and be present with my family.
Yeah.
But taking it off, I would love to take it off.
Yeah. I found that like even with that, I would still pick it up. I would still like pick it up and like just like instinctually like start swiping.
It's like muscle memory.
Yeah, it took like 5 weeks of just having them gone to
like
get
a
that
rat
muscle
that's
memory
been
gone.
conditioned.
Yeah, exactly.
To hear the bell or whatever.
Yeah. But in terms of other practices, I don't have any magic bullets. One of the things, so we did COVID at home. We worked at home for COVID, but then we also have an office, and like just working from home was just, we have 2 little daughters, and it just did not, the work life split just doesn't happen for me. I'm sure it can happen for other people, but I was working at my dining room table. I didn't have like a specific space where I could close the door and work stays in that room.
Yeah.
It's like if I have to make a real clear distinction between work stays at the office.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not going to lie, like there's work that happens at home sometimes, but for the most part, I leave work in the office. That's been a really good habit.
Which is hard to do as the leader. Like
hard.
You talked in the beginning about that pressure, that weight. Yeah. That doesn't fall on your team or other people.
No.
And so when there's fires that need to be put out, that falls on you. And so you're saying that, and I'm sure, I wish if we were in I joke all the time, other careers where I could literally leave work at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last night you were putting out a fire.
Yeah.
And you were like, I need a sabbatical. I've been doing this for so long.
I mean, you probably do. I think we all do. Like we all need sabbaticals. Yeah. We all think we want to retire, but I think what we really want is just a sabbatical.
Give me a rest. Then
yeah, just like a couple months off and then like recharge and get back into it.
But what I mean by that is that it's a discipline, that it's there's some people do have the luxury, like you're saying, some people don't have the luxury of taking certain things off their phones.
Yeah.
Some people do have sort of the luxury of leaving work at work because it exists there. Yeah. And then they get to come home. If you're an entrepreneur, if you are a starter, if you're in charge of something, the boss, the CEO, the leader, that's a discipline that you have to.
It's a choice.
It's a choice, a daily.
And it's a personal, like everybody's different, right? If you're a property manager, you can't turn off the phone calls of the toilet that's leaking. You got to go take that phone call.
So take us to so at what point were you like, I want to sell this? This is the goal, or did someone approach you? How did that work?
The short story is somebody approached me. It was kind of always in the back of my head, like one day we'll sell, but it was never like, there was never a plan like we're selling in 2023.
Yeah.
But there was an investment banker that approached me that, his whole career is helping to sell e-commerce brands.
And was it a local person or was it?
No,
he found you on like LinkedIn or
New
something?
York. I don't remember. Probably through a relationship, a connection. That's all they do is sell e-commerce brands like me. And so a broker basically. We had been talking for like 6 months, kind of on and off, just friendly. And then we kind of decided, he pitched me pretty hard on the idea in late 2021. Yeah, late 2021 that, hey, you could probably get a good price. We should probably go to market and see what go to market means.
So you send them all your books and numbers.
Books and you put together a big deck and why we're special, why you want to buy us. And so we put it together a deck in early 2022.
Okay.
And started marketing the business in basically spring of 2022. And as, fate would have it, we went to market, meaning we just called people, had me,
it's not like a Zillow of businesses.
There are some, but not ones that, we went on. It's
like discovery meetings.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a relationship business. So we had a bunch of meetings in March and April with a ton of interest. And then what I just told you about Apple Ads happened to us.
Your sales went down.
Tanked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, our business was upended basically overnight. And so all these great conversations and all this interest basically, evaporated overnight because nobody wants to buy a business that, goes from doing great to terrible overnight. Mm-hmm. So at the time we tried to kind of hold things together and like, oh, don't look over there. Everything's fine. We're going to figure it out. But you got to give people your numbers and there's questions and, how do you answer those questions? And we did our best, but just nobody's interested in buying a business that's not doing well. At least not for a good price. Mm-hmm. So we basically through 2022, we kind of still tried to sell it. We had a lot of conversations and none of them were very fruitful. We actually had a very bad offer in December of last year that we actually signed an LOI for. It went nowhere. The LOI went nowhere, which I'm glad it didn't. And then at the same time, I'm trying to like piece back together my business that had just fallen apart. And so I'm trying to sell my business and build it at the same time. And long story short, we came to this spring and things were going great. Like things were going really well. And one of the original buyers that we had talked to a year ago was still, we called them back and said, hey, look at us now. Mm-hmm. And they were interested.
Wow.
So you say, here's a price. And they say, here's a price.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of back and forth on price. It took a couple months to agree to an initial price in the LOI. So it took us maybe a month and a half to negotiate like the LOI, which is just, as we talked earlier, as it's just
a
like
letter of intent.
Yeah, the basic terms of the deal. It's like a 2 or 3 page document. Here's the price, kind of here's whatever. And then we spent after we signed the LOI, which is not binding, you spend the next 2 months doing due diligence, digging really deep into the books.
So they're like kind of auditing you.
Audits, yeah. Financial people auditing you. There's all kinds of audits, making sure that what you told them before is actually true.
Yeah.
Got to back it up with data. And then, the hope is that the price doesn't change. In our case, it did. It went up a little bit. But the hope is you can hold the deal together with the same terms, and get it across the finish line. But it takes 2 months. It took us 2 months, which is actually pretty short.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes 3 to 6 months. And the whole time you're just like on edge,
Keep the sales up.
You got to keep the sales up. You got to keep the business running while also trying to sell it at the same time, which are 2 full-time jobs.
So stressful couple months.
Very stressful.
But here you are. You did it.
We did it. We got it across the finish line.
Man, that's so cool. I think it's neat to hear. Because it's cool because, at least in Fort Worth, you kind of pioneered this e-commerce thing and a product. And we're on TV and we were all like, look, he's on TV. This is so cool. But then also to have the success of an exit.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people in our city have done that. So
yeah,
it's fun. It's fun for us to be like a spectator and
cheerleader
on.
Hey, I mean, nothing would excite me more than to help other people do the same thing, start their own business, help them sell it eventually one day.
Yeah.
There's an incubator over where we live that, I'm going to be like a mentor for.
Oh, cool.
Kind of an upcoming cohort. And like, if there's anything I can do to pass that on, like I love this town, that we live in. I'm less involved in the actual city of Fort Worth because nobody here does what I do. Not nobody, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if I can do that to help anybody else, that's kind of what I'm looking for in my next stage of my career, is just kind of like, well, what can I do with these skills I've learned?
Yeah. Now you have the skills.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of why I did the podcast, because, getting proximity to someone like you, and hearing their story and hearing what you learned, spares you some of that.
For sure.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
Like, so much of my success, I feel like, comes from me just making mistakes and trying things, or I've had the opportunity to sit in a room and get to know, make friends with these people and have those connections. And
you've had like a lot of different careers that you've had to like start new industries from scratch. You probably made all the mistakes in like all the industries. Like you got the restaurant, the band, real estate.
So but now I have like this MBA and
the book that's coming out, What Not to Do.
Yeah, I would buy that book.
Yeah, but that's part of what we're doing here. Is like how can
it's trial
we share
by fire. It's figuring it out.
Yeah. I have a couple like less story driven questions.
Sure.
What are, I think like a healthy person makes a healthy leader. And you've talked a lot about that. Just I had to unplug from TikTok.
Yeah.
Do you what's a day in the life of Patrick? Like, do you have any habits or routines or things you do? I know you're really into kombucha right now. You got your kombucha with you. Like, walk me through like your ideal day.
Sure.
When you're most healthy, so to speak.
Sure. I wouldn't say I have the best health.
And health, don't think of like physical health, but just like, is there things
mentally, emotionally, spiritually?
So my family is what grounds me. So my wife, as I've told you, is 100%, we're on the same team. And so talking about health, I would either be crazy or dead without her. Right. So she's my like therapist, my, even to, this morning, talking about things that, I'm this new phase of life. I'm like, I don't know who I am, laying on the couch and, what's next. And she's there with me. So, that's not necessarily a habit, but and then we have 2 little girls. And so when we didn't talk about it, but we had Madeline, our first little girl, 2 months before I left Lockheed Martin.
Oh, wow.
So like we left,
That's
Jennifer
crazy.
went back to school to work. She took 8 months off for maternity and she went back to school to work because somebody's got to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. So I'm at home with this kid, 8-week-old kid, trying to start this business.
Wow.
So my kids, have been part of the story since day one. And so, I'd say, this isn't, they say that kids like kind of change your life. For me, they have changed my life and they've been part of my story. We haven't really talked about it, but like they have been probably the most grounding thing for me, because otherwise I would just work myself to death, just kind of chase after, what I'm going after, instead of realizing I got 2, little souls that I need to care for. And so they have been helpful for me to turn off at night, to set, these rules, and like, otherwise I would just work constantly or, be anxious constantly or think about work constantly. But like, because they're in my life, I basically they kind of pull me away from work, whether they don't know it, but,
children force you to be selfless.
Yeah. Bingo. In the most, meaningful way possible.
Mm-hmm.
A marriage helps you get there a little bit, and then children get you the rest of the way.
Accelerate it. Yeah.
So it's not really a habit. Not a direct answer to your question, but I'd say out of all the things I do, making sure I put aside meaningful time to be with them is the most important one. Because I don't really go to the gym. I read in the mornings. That's probably the only other habit I have. And I take care of myself in terms of what I eat. But otherwise, my kids, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I love it. Were there any books or resources or podcasts that were like really helpful or instrumental or that you recommend all the time? Like,
I've read so many. In the early days, the podcast I listened to, I'm sure everybody's listened to it if you listen to podcasts. It's I don't listen to it anymore. What's it called? It's the Guy Raz podcast where he interviews
How I Built This.
Yeah, so that was in the early days, was really kind of influential for me. There are a lot of e-commerce podcasts that I listen to that, wouldn't be helpful to mention, but books. I wish I had a great answer. I don't have a good answer. Shoe Dog, you mentioned that one earlier. That's a great book. Yeah. Just any. So for me, what I do is I dissect and I study people's stories, kind of like what you're doing here. And I try to take out little pieces that I can apply to me. And so
you're doing that like reading biographies,
books, biographies, podcasts, TV shows. Like when I watched the Hulu thing about, it's like I'm more interested in like dissecting this guy than I am about the entertainment and like just what can I learn from this situation. So
was there any like leaders that you dissected that were really inspiring, or companies, or
no sorry.
No, but it sounds like on Twitter and there's other spheres where it's instead of shooting for the stars, looking at somebody who's I don't know, so a million steps ahead. It sounds like you found some grounding in people who are one or two steps ahead, and we're a little bit more tangible and kind of a realistic person to lay eyes on for a season.
Yes. That's absolutely true. And that's a good point. So like my book is Twitter basically. Yeah. And it sounds silly if you're not on Twitter, you don't understand, but get on Twitter. Yeah. There are the smartest people and also people just like you trying to do what you're doing who will take time out of their day.
You've kind of found this community. And you're a good writer. I was looking at some of your tweets. Like he's witty and concise and fun and playful.
It's a really, if you have a niche, you can find friends there on Twitter. And like it sounds silly, but I have best friends I've met on Twitter.
I love that.
And mentors and, Chris Powers, I don't know if you've had him on the podcast, but he's here in Fort Worth. He's on Twitter, a great person to follow on Twitter. There's a few Fort Worth entrepreneurs on Twitter. So
that's cool. You have any questions?
No, I'm just curious. I mean, I love what you're sharing about the incubator, and just seems like you're in a season where you have a lot to offer, a lot to give. And obviously your first fruits are going to go to your family, but outside of that, just ways that you want to spend your time and invest, it seems like, in others, or at least that's what I'm pulling from a lot of what you said, that you actually enjoy helping other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been helped a lot, as I've talked about, by other people. And literally, so I just thanked the guy yesterday who I haven't talked to in 5 years since we had this conversation, but just a phone call can change somebody's trajectory. And it may be like some silly thing that you don't even think is really meaningful, but like to that person or to me at the time, it's very meaningful. And so like, I don't want to forget that. Sometimes I forget that I have experiences that I can share with people that to me seem like, well, that's not really helpful. I don't feel helpful in the moment, but to them, it may be extremely helpful. So I'd love to just kind of pay forward. I've been blessed a lot. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with kind of the next phase of my career is see what I can do to help people and make space for that. So like, I don't work Fridays anymore. So I've made space for like, not only my kids, but doing other things, either at my church or through other organizations as well.
And do you have anything else on the horizon other than this sort of mission of I want to help people because people have helped me? Any other like ambitions or like even like legacy? Like what do you 10 years from now?
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. I read something yesterday that was helpful for me. It said that talking about people who sell their business like and kind of struggle in this after, the advice I read was if your 10-year goals aren't connected to your 6-month goals, then you're gonna like feel aimless in the world. So like and I read that, I was like, that really makes a lot of sense. Cause like when I was building Supply, it was like a 10-year goal that was like tangible today. Yeah. And so now it's like, the answer is I have no idea, but I'm working on figuring that out. Like I want to do everything from like writing a book about raising a family, which is completely not related to what I'm doing now, to like talked about starting a mobile home park. Like there's like everything's on the table now.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about jewelry because of the margins. So
I mean, men's jewelry, you know. Yeah, the answer is I don't know. I think part of me like is looking forward to just having a job and just kind of going to that job and like for a little while, but I think I'll be itching to like start something again in the near future.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm still very young. So I got a lot of
time,
space,
a lot of time ahead of you. And just the idea of legacy, like what do you want people to remember or not remember is the right word, but just what do you kind of hope your legacy is?
Yeah. When I think about legacy, I really don't think about, take this for however it comes across. I don't really think about other people. I think about my children. And so when I think about legacy, I don't think about what do people think of me. I think about who are those little girls going to be in 20 years.
Yeah.
And what do I need to do to make sure, and like we don't control who our children become, but like to provide the environment and the teaching to make sure that they have the best opportunity for them. So I think a lot about them. That's kind of the phase I'm in right now. They're 2 and 4. So that's the phase I'm in. Maybe a different answer in 5 or 6 years, but that's what I think about is.
I love that.
Like, I don't know if you've ever read Habits of the Household or do you do EOS at, I have this idea about there needs to be EOS for families. So EOS is like the structure on how you run your
operate your
business. It changed my business.
Level 10.
Yeah, like weekly meetings and like
same page meetings with your spouse.
Yeah, exactly. Like you gotta have a level. Then like, but our families should have vision and 10-year visions and like 1-year visions, and like our families should have mission statements and visions and values. And I don't really have any of those. They're all up here, but I don't have them written down for my family. So like, that's kind of my next project right now.
That.
Okay, you're speaking the ICE love language over here.
Do y'all have all that?
Oh yeah, we have like a mission statement.
Did you just make
our kids have it memorized, which is pretty.
There you go.
That's like the goal.
And we have things that we do every day.
So did you just kind of make all that up, or did you follow like a plan, or
I did it from my own life.
Yeah,
I have like 1, 3, 10-year goals, and I have like these daily declarations of things I believe about myself and who I want to be that I read to myself.
Yeah.
And we had, once a year we sort of set family goals, but this Habits of the Household is a fantastic book if you haven't read it.
Yeah.
We read through that, but we spent some time, we try to go on like a fun kind of couples trip a couple times a year. And
just the two of us.
And try to do like one vision trip a year.
Yeah.
So we
did the cliche road trip, except it was in Colorado. But
so we did like a trip together where we kind of like, what should our family values be?
Yeah. And when was that? Was that recently? Or?
It was 2 years ago, November of 2020. Yeah. And we're such, I don't know, entrepreneurs, because we went on this beautiful hike in Aspen. Jamie brought his laptop, and at some point at the top, we summited. He pulled out his laptop and we started writing down our values.
Yeah.
I'm like, the people walking by are like, this is not the point.
Yeah.
But it was inspiring, and we were together and focused on our marriage and what do we want our family to look like. And we wanted to be in an inspiring environment to curate some of those things. It was funny.
There are a lot of people that don't have and this is just personality. This isn't like talking bad about people. Just don't have the vision or the ability to like kind of plan that sort of thing. And like, same for EOS for me in my business. Like, I didn't know how to set up my business for success. And so I just kind of followed what this book said. So I would, I
love the idea of like an EOS for.
Yeah. There needs to be some kind of Habits of the Household gets you there part of the way. But it doesn't give you like the structure like the EOS structure does.
Yeah. The kind of tactical.
I love that idea.
How do I set a mission for my family? Where do I even start? Like most people, like if I have trouble with that as an entrepreneur, probably most people have trouble with that.
Yeah. What routines, what should you do? Like what?
So we'll see. I haven't talked about that with anybody except for Jennifer a little bit. So we'll see. I think it's a need.
That's right. It is a need. I don't know if anybody else is doing that. Yeah. Maybe we should edit this part out so no one steals it.
Yeah. Well, if you steal it, just send me the book because I'd love to read it. But all that to say, I'm sure I'll want to start something in the future. I have no idea what it is. It won't be a razor company because I've already done that, and I can't legally do it again, but maybe we'll do something else.
Yeah. Well, man, this was great. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing your story, and congrats.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Making Fort Worth proud. It's awesome.
Don't tell Jimmy, but I'm glad he couldn't make it.
Oh, thanks for having me. And we're big fans of just what you and Jennifer have done, and it's just neat, like Jamie was saying, to have people that we can cheer on that are in our hometown, in our neighborhood, who are doing really amazing things. And so thanks for making margin for us today. I know it's not Friday, but you still came. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all having me.
Cool.
Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Stories with Soul. If you enjoyed the interview and like what you heard, please help us out and share, subscribe, and like anywhere you listen to podcasts. When you share and subscribe, it is insanely helpful and allows us to keep producing new episodes. You can always join us directly in the studio by watching the video version on our website, 6thAveStorytelling.com. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. You're obsessed with your business, and we want to make the world obsessed with it too. Thanks for listening.